Victor Wembanyama just detonated on the Mavs season opener and probably on the hopes and dreams of some of the Mavs fans for this season. How do I know that? Because I'm a Mavs fan myself. He had 40 points, 15 rebounds, 3 blocks. He was 15 for 21 from the field. The Spurs win 125-92 in a blowout. And Victor Wembanyama now holds the season opener scoring record for the Spurs. The Spurs own the paint. It was 68-26 points in the paint, 31-8 on the fast break. Here we have the box score for the teams. Harrison Barnes had 7. Victor Wembanyama had the stat line I just mentioned, 40, 15. All of them were defensive rebounds besides one offensive rebound. Devin Vassell had 13. Stephon Castle had 22. And Dylan Harper didn't even start for them, and he had 15 off the bench. Maybe that's what the Mavs should have done. I don't know. They definitely shouldn't have started Cooper Flagg at the point. Anthony Davis only had 22. I say only. This isn't a bad stat line, but when you want Anthony Davis to be the best player on the team, it just doesn't look good compared to Wemby's stat line. PJ Washington had 17. He's still really good. Cooper Flagg had 10 rebounds. He had a nice little double-double. Derek Lively only had 4 points. I think Derek Lively is going to struggle as long as the Mavs don't have a point guard that can run the pick and roll with him. They could use a player like Luka Doncic, someone who can get the ball to their players, help the development of a young player like Derek Lively, someone who can't necessarily create their own shot all the time. Klay Thompson had 10 points. He was 1 of 5 from the three-point line, 4 of 13. I expected him to have a better game with that. All the Meg Thee Stallion stuff coming out on the offseason. When you got someone like that, you got to come out, I don't know. I'm just saying I would have scored 30. Our bench, we had Max Christie with 9. Ryan Nembhard with 8. I've heard that he is probably going to play himself into the lineup, whether Jason Kidd wants to or not. I guess we'll see as the season progresses. Overall, the Spurs were 50 of 87. We were 31 of 83. That is insane. Look at the field goal percentage differential here. And then look at the rebounding differential. 50 rebounds to 37. The free throws were pretty even. Spurs didn't even make a lot of their free throws or a good percentage of them. And they still blew us out like that, which is crazy. The Spurs had 10 steals to our 5. Blocks were similar. Total turnovers, 15 to 16. That's not too crazy. Fast break points, 31-8 is insane. Points in the paint, 68-26, like I said. Fouls were the same. Largest lead of the game was 33, which is what was to end the game, us losing by 33. Cooper Flagg at the point meant we didn't really have a true point guard out there. It was Flagg, Klay, PJ, AD, and Lively. Kyrie is still months away from returning from his ACL surgery. So Jason Kidd seems to be experimenting early. I know people are saying Giannis. He did this with Giannis, but I think that was in year 3. And Giannis wasn't the point guard. He was a point forward, and he wasn't the point forward for the entirety of the game. I think putting the point guard role onto Cooper Flagg, who's 18. I think I've seen that was he the second youngest first overall pick behind LeBron and one of the 20 youngest players to ever be in the NBA. That's just not a recipe for success. And that's not even his game. He's not a creator, facilitator. He's very good in that mid to low range scoring. There was that play where he went underneath for the layup from the other side of the rim, and it looked like he could have gotten a foul call. And then I think that's when his parents were like, yeah, come on, let's go. He's more of a gritty basketball player. He's not like a finesse basketball player. And how the game started was I want to say Cooper Flagg got a steal. They were breaking it towards the other end of the court. I think he passed it to AD, and AD went for the lob, and Coop missed the lob or scoring off of the lob from AD. And who knows, maybe if he makes that as his first NBA points, the whole game looks different, but probably not. Wemby looks like a freak out there. He looks like his nickname. He looks like an alien. We started the game pretty even, and then we got in some early foul trouble, which snowballed Dallas's front line. Lively had 5 fouls. AD had 4. PJ had 4. And these were all by the end of the game. I think Lively had to come out of the game. Now, the foul trouble, maybe that contributed to Lively's low scoring and low contribution to the game. But, I mean, you still need someone to facilitate the ball to him. And then before half, the Spurs went on a 13-0 run, sparked by Wemby, of course. And that kind of flips control before halftime for the rest of the game. And San Antonio just never looked back. And then in quarter three, I think they outscored us 33-21. And from there, we were not in the game at all. Dallas only had 26 points in the paint. Spurs had 12 dunks and Wemby had 7 of them himself. He had that crazy dunk where he does the reverse windmill. He just doesn't look natural out there. It's crazy. He's doing step back threes. He's like almost 8 feet tall. I know that's a little hyperbole, but still, it's just insane. Overall, the field goal percentage was really bad. 31-83 for us, 37%. San Antonio was 50 for 87, around 57%. Wemby had post fades, face ups, and ones. And him being so aggressive is what sent AD and Lively to the bench early. And he did all of this in 30 minutes. Wemby is looking like this generation's Wilt. In my opinion, we haven't really had a Wilt. LeBron only has 4 rings. Steph has 4. Nobody's really taken over the league for a long stretch of time. This is probably just an overreaction of game 1, which is fine. But if anyone could do it, it's someone like Wemby. He's kind of like those 2K point gods or demi center gods, whatever they were a few years ago that people would create that you just couldn't do anything against. Now going back to Cooper Flagg, he had 10 points, 10 rebounds. He was 4 for 13. He missed his only 3-point shot that he took, and he had 3 turnovers in his 32 minutes. He did not have a really good first half at all. He wasn't really aggressive. That probably has something to do with him running the point guard, which isn't his natural position at all. When Cooper did score, it looked good. He's like I mentioned, he's like a gritty basketball player. He's just like a basketball player. He's not a finesse guy. He's not a guy that's going to carry the ball on air. It seems like Kyrie. He looks more like a connector or scorer versus an initiator. And especially early in his career, he looks like he's going to need someone to set him up for some of these points, which is fine. This was only night 1. He's 18 years old. I think he'll get it. I know he's had some comps to like Jason Tatum. If he can end up being like that, that's really good for the Mavs. A player like him would look really good next to a player like Luka. I know we wouldn't have even got the first pick if we didn't do that trade. Whether you think the trade in NBA was rigged or not, we would have won more games. We would have been deeper in the playoffs most likely. Anthony Davis, he had 22 and 13. He was 7 for 22 from the field. AD had to self-create a ton, which isn't what we really want for AD, especially at this point in his career. He's not really young like in New Orleans, where you can do so much more than he can now. When he was with LeBron, it's kind of when he was at his best, when they won that ring. The rim was really crowded for him. He got into foul trouble, so that kind of probably messed up his defensive impact that he would have had. I'm just not sure about having AD as the undisputed number 1 guy. Even when Kyrie comes back, we're going to be back to square one. Even when we did have Luka, we always needed another ball handler. We always needed someone to kind of alleviate that pressure off of Luka. He's good enough to where sometimes it didn't matter, but sometimes it did. Kyrie Irving, especially at this point in his career, coming off of a major injury, is not Luka. Even at his peak, he just wasn't Luka. Even when he does come back, we're going to need some help with ball handling. Maybe that's where Nembhard comes in. I guess we'll see. Moving on to PJ Washington, he had 17 points. He was 7 for 11, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line. He was efficient. He played through early fouls. And PJ just looks really good. He's rounded out as a really good player for us, and he just continues to improve, be used a little bit more. He's a great overall player. Klay Thompson, the Stallion, he had 10 points. He was 4 for 13, 1 of 5 from 3. He probably just needs to be a spot-up shooter at this point in his career. I'm sure there's times where he's going to catch fire and be that old Klay that everyone loves to see, but he needs someone to put him in the right places at the right times at this point in his career, and that's what we're going to kind of hear a lot with these players this season at this point in their career. We have a lot of old players. I know at their best, if everyone's firing on all cylinders, this team could be something special, but everyone's old. We have an 18-year-old who's going to be the future of our franchise, and then we have people like AD, Kyrie, and Klay who are well into their 30s, especially speaking basketball-wise. This team is just very lopsided. And now that I'm talking through it, is this kind of like what the Warriors tried to do with their young players and old players, where it kind of didn't work, and it kind of stunted the growth of some of those young players who could have been something more on different teams? I'm not sure. Either way, we have a playmaking void. Ryan Nimhard led with 5 assists in 16 minutes, which is insane. That tells the story about the creation by committee that we have. Luka probably would have had like 17 assists, no joke, in this game. He's just that type of player. I don't know when I'm going to stop talking about Luka. I miss him so much. I don't care that we have Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg is 18. Luka is 26 or 27, however old he is now. And he is one of the best players in the league. That is just something you don't give up. I wasn't making content back then, so I never really talked about it. I legit had a headache that day. When I found out there was a trade, everyone thought that it was a hack, that it wasn't true. I thought the same thing. One of the worst days in my sports life, if not the worst. AD even called out the playmaking after the game. There's too much isolation and not enough ball movement side to side. Too many stalled possessions. That's just what happens when you don't have a point guard and then you put an 18-year-old out there who doesn't have this kind of experience. Even like versus the experience overseas, it's so much different than the college experience. Those players come from overseas ready to go, it seems like, more than the college players. Either way, the Spurs win by 33, which was the largest lead. Wemby didn't just have a great game, it was kind of an insane game. I know maybe everyone's overreacting to the game, but if you just watched how he looked on some of those plays, he was in between the rim and the free throw line, and he just kind of stretches his arms out and dunks over whoever that was underneath. He's calling, I don't know if he did it explicitly, I don't remember, but the bench was calling Derek Lively, who's 7'1", 7'2", small. That's just, he looks crazy out there. Dallas was in foul trouble early. It changed the rotation and rhythm. I'm sure that has something to do with it. I don't think either way we would have been in this game. Flagg had a real third quarter scoring spurt after a scoreless first half. Flagg looked really good after the first half. Probably just has to get those jitters out. I think he'll be fine. We don't want to overreact too much on his performance. He seems like, the way people talk about him, it seems like he'll be good no matter what. And I do believe that and hope that for my Mavs. Okay, looking ahead at the Wizards, we would hope that this is going to be a get-right game. If we look horrible against the Wizards, I think there's going to be a lot of panic online with the Mavericks and how the season is going to go. I think some of the things you can do is like change the lineup. I don't know. Jason Kidd has done weird stuff before where he starts with something in the same game and then quickly reverts to something that makes more sense. I don't know why he does that. Like for starting lineups, for example, I don't see why we signed D'Angelo Russell to be the Kyrie gap player if we're not going to start him. I think we should start him at the 1, get Coop out of that role. He can have point forward minutes, but I don't think he should be the point guard. So we'd have D'Angelo Russell, PJ and Coop, and then we would have AD and Lively. That way, next man up is what? Is it Clay? It's probably Gafford. We have Gafford, Clay, Najee, Nimhard. Maybe kind of get Jaden Hardy in there to score some points if he can. Max Christie, almost forgot about him. He's really good still. And then we just go from there. Utilize the pick and roll more. Washington allowed 133 to Milwaukee in their opener. That's even for today's NBA, that's kind of a lot of points. So if we don't beat them Friday, it's not going to look good. There's going to be some panic online going forward. Maybe with a game like this, it's okay to have Coop at the point guard, but I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Make him a point forward. Have like close to half of his possessions come as a point forward. That way he gets the reps that people are talking about. Oh, he needs reps. He doesn't need reps at the point guard position. I just don't think it makes sense. But that's enough about the Mavs and the Spurs. We'll talk Mavs more as the season progresses. Going forward with this channel, I will mostly talk about the Mavs and Cowboys and their games and their seasons and how it looks. I'm more of a fan of basketball and football. Those are my two teams that I was, I guess, born into, and I just never left. I just never left the fandom. I'm going to rock with them no matter what. It's been hard for both franchises lately, but, you know, we'll get through it. I will now put in some commentary I had about night 1 and how crazy that was. And then after that, I'll go over some of the games in night 2, and then we'll end our first video after that. Opening night in the NBA, and what a game to open the season. OKC raises their first banner in franchise history and beats Houston in double OT 125-124. Shea started out slow. He had 5 points at the end of the first half and then ended up with 35, including baiting KD at the end of the second OT to win the game with free throws in Shea fashion. He had KD out there wiggling and dancing. KD looks every bit of 37 out there. He also had a NBA CTE moment. He tried to call a timeout at the end of the first OT. Luckily, the refs didn't see him, or the game would have ended on free throws anyways. KD looks old. I mean, he is old in NBA terms, which is fine. I don't think he's a top 10 player anymore. He's definitely a top 10 scorer. I thought that for the past few years, probably. It might not matter. Alfred Sengun looks like a top 10 player out there. He had 39, 11, and 7, including 5 threes. He looked really good through the night. Unlike Reed Shepherd looked scared, inexperienced. He's only 21. He looked 21 though. It's okay. I think they'll get it together as he gets more experience. I think they might need another ball handler behind Amen Thompson. I know with Fred VanVleet going out, that's a big blow for them this season. KD might be that other ball handler. We'll see. He wasn't really involved too much towards the end of the game. I think it was the last 15 minutes he didn't score anything. I think I saw that out there. I'm not sure if that's true. Just watching the game, he didn't really call for the ball too much. He wasn't really aggressive. I think they'll get it together. It's not like this was a horrible game. It was a really good game to open the season. Chet also had 28. He's probably tired of people saying J-Dub was the second best player. He probably thinks he could be the best player for OKC. OKC wins despite shooting 25% from 3. For game 2, it was the Warriors versus the Lakers. Jimmy Butler looked like 2006 D-Wade out there. He was 16 for 16 for free throws. He had 31 points in all. Steph had 23. Kuminga showed flashes. He looked really good, but I've heard people say this is just what Kuminga does every now and then he goes back to whatever he is. Luka had 43 and 12. If he was just going to score a bunch of points and almost get a 40-point triple-double to lose, the Mavs should have kept him. Going back to the Rockets, I think they had 20-something turnovers. The Lakers had like 20 turnovers. It's not really easy to win a game like that. DeAndre Ayton looked Charmin soft out there. He had 20 and 6. He had 4 turnovers himself. It's only game 1. Once LeBron gets back to the Lakers, they should be fine. They're just probably hoping Luka can keep them afloat until that happens. So moving back to night 2, I did watch the Knicks and Cavs. And to me, it seemed like the Knicks were in control most of the game. I know the Cavs had a few leads, and they looked good for parts of the game. But if we look here, they have 3 games this season. One is actually on Christmas, which will be interesting. I know both teams have a few of their star players out, or at least very key contributors to the teams that are out. And once they get full strength and maybe this becomes a playoff series, I think both teams will be very entertaining to watch. I think for teams like the Knicks and Cavs who have established stars and chemistry, I think this would be the year for them to push for a title, of course, because you have teams like Boston who has Jason Tatum hurt. Detroit still is young and upcoming. You have Orlando who could be in contention for a championship in the East, or at least come out of the East. Miami, I don't really believe in, but I guess we'll see. Donovan Mitchell led the Cavs with 31 points. OG Anunoby with 24 for the Knicks. Rebounds, Evan Mobley had 8, OG had 14, and then Lonzo Ball, who looked really good for the Cavs. He looks like he'll be a key contributor for the Cavs going forward. He had 6 assists, leading them, and Miles Bridges did the same with 6 assists for the Knicks. The field goal percentage is pretty much the same. 3-point percentage is close enough. Turnovers is pretty much the same as well, but the rebounds is where we see some big differences, with the Knicks having 48 and the Cavs have 32. Jared Allen only had 4 points. He had 2 steals, 1 assist, 4 rebounds. Jared Allen is one of those players I had in fantasy before, and he would have a game where he'd have like 30 fantasy points, and the next game he would have like 6. And this is one of those games where he had like 6 fantasy points. Evan Mobley, he had 22, 3 steals, 3 assists, 1 block, 8 rebounds, like we mentioned before. He's one of those young and upcoming players who could push for a top 10 spot. I think by the end of the season, I think Evan Mobley and Donovan Mitchell will probably be in the top 15 for most people, if not everyone. The Knicks, Jalen Brunson had 23 points. OG had 24. Cat, he had 19 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists. Very even from the team. Miles McBride, he was shooting, I think he had a good amount of threes. Yeah, he was 4 for 6. He looked really good out there for them coming off the bench. Like I mentioned before, once both of these teams are healthy, they'll both be contenders in the East. Hornets blasted the Nets. I think the Nets will be in contention for the number 1 pick. If the Hornets can stay healthy and maybe one of these young centers come out as like a solidified starter, I think they could be in contention for the playoffs, but I guess we'll see. That'll all depend on LaMelo's health, of course, and Brandon Miller continuing his breakout. The Brooklyn Nets, Igor Demon, I think they're looking forward to what he can be. There is some young talent on the Nets team, but I think they would need to get rid of some of these more veteran players so they can kind of see who's going to break out and be one of those key pieces for them in the future going forward. I know a lot of people think Orlando could be a contender this year. I don't know if that's the case. I think that would be more so next year. The only other games I was able to catch were the end of the Kings and Suns games and the Wolves and Blazers games. The only thing I got out of those games was Devin Booker is really good. Mark Williams did not start. I don't know if he will going forward. Of course, Anthony Edwards is really good. They both kind of iced the game for their teams towards the end. The other games, nothing really is too crazy. The Clippers are just old. I don't think anyone really believes in them too much anymore. Washington still sucks. Need to figure out what they want to do going forward. Can they be something this year? Chicago has some good young players. One of the only other things that I saw that was really surprising would be VJ Edgecombe and his performance. I think he was the highest scoring rookie. I think he is the top 4 or 5 as far as a rookie coming out and scoring the most points in their first game. He looked really good. I watched his highlights. He had 34. I know he missed those 2 free throws at the end of the game. And then Pritchard missed that game-winning shot. But the Celtics, I don't know how good they're going to be without Jason Tatum. I don't know if Jaylen Brown can be that number 1 guy for this team. I know that's not crazy to say that they're not going to be as good without Jason Tatum, but I think it's going to be worse than people may think. And maybe that's a blessing in disguise. Maybe they get some kind of higher draft pick and then are super crazy next year with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, whoever they pick. But I guess time will tell on that. I think they could be movers at the deadline for some of these older players as well once they figure out that they are not that good. Embiid was on a minute restrictions from what I saw, and I think some of the highlights I saw, he also just didn't look too good. He was 1 for 9. That, I don't know, maybe if they also figure out that they're not going to be that good this year, get off of some of these guys too, like Embiid. I play too much Madden and 2K to keep players past their prime, no matter who they are. I trade everyone for picks and young players, but that's just me living in fantasy land. We'll see what these teams do. Other than that, I didn't watch too many games or highlights. I don't think there's much we can take from the first even few weeks, let alone the first few days of the NBA season. Like I mentioned, going forward, we'll talk about the Mavs and Cowboys mostly, and then anything crazy that happens, like VJ Edgecombe going crazy, Wemby shitting on my Mavs. There's that gambling stuff, but I don't even know what's going on with that, bro. They're like arresting people. The FBI is out there arresting people. Chauncey Billups got arrested, I think. Some of the players on different teams are being investigated, if not arrested already. It's really weird. I don't know why these players and coaches get so greedy where they think they need to do that. I don't know. It's just whatever. But again, going forward, it'll be mostly Mavs and Cowboys content, and then anything else that is really surprising or of note for the NBA season. And then we also will be doing some Madden and 2K rebuilds and stuff like that.